उत्तराखंड का एक छोटा सा गांव, यहीं से मैंने बहुत बड़े बड़े सपने देखने शुरू किए। एवरेस्ट क्लाइंब किया था 27 साल पहले। जरूरी आप अचीव करते हैं तो आप दूसरों को भी वहां तक पहुंचाने में अपना योगदान करिए। टाटा स्टील में रह के मुझे वो अपॉर्चुनिटीज मिली। माउंटेनियरिंग के द्वारा लीडरशिप, पहाड़ चढ़ते हैं तो एक नया जीवन, कैन डू स्पिरिट।
टाटा स्टील, values stronger than steel.
गाइस कुछ नया दिखाओ। इधर होना यार। वैसे क्या नया दिखाने वाला था तू? नया टेक अवे मेन्यू?
नहीं, नया कुकरी शो होगा।
नई जलेबी की दुकान।
और जलेबी पे नया टॉपिंग।
अबे यार, लाइट भी अभी जानी थी यार।
नया मोबाइल इंटरनेट
मोबाइल पे
तेरे
उत्तरी रोनाल्डो क्या कर रहे हैं?
कुछ नहीं, तुम लोग कल देखना टीवी पे पुराना मैच। ए मोटे मोटे, हाँ सुनना, जो तेरा है वो मेरा है यार।
क्या जो मेरा है वो तेरा है, जो तेरा है वो मेरा, जो मेरा है वो तेरा है, जो तेरा है वो मेरा।
करने के लिए क्रेजी हैं।
माँ आ गई।
क्यों बहू, आज काम से जी चुरा के भाग आई क्या?
नहीं अम्मा, भूल गई क्या? आज हमें आधार नंबर की पंजीकरण के लिए जाना है।
आधार? उसमें औरतों का क्या काम? और गुड्डी का बापू जा तो रहा है।
गुड्डी के बापू से काम नहीं चलेगा, हम सबको जाना है।
हाँ दादी माँ, मैं भी तैयार हूँ, मुझे भी अपना आधार नंबर चाहिए।
अरे अम्मा, अभी तक तुम तैयार नहीं हुई? चलो जल्दी से तैयार हो जाओ।
हाँ, मैं क्या करूँगी आधार नंबर लेके? हैं
अम्मा, बहाने मत बनाओ। हाँ, और आपकी कोई पहचान नहीं है क्या? देश के प्रत्येक निवासी की पहचान है आधार।
छोटा या बड़ा हो, रंग हो या धनवान, भारतवासी की यही है पहचान।
बच्चे बूढ़े और जवान, आधार है सबकी पहचान।
न उम्र की रुकावट, न जाति धर्म का बंधन।
विकलांग के लिए भी है आधार, देश के प्रत्येक निवासी के लिए है आधार।
आधार, आम आदमी का अधिकार।
Just you, just me. If you have any time free, I wanna talk to you. Is all I wanna do all day.
The school children to be very clear in their mind. If they're going to be here, they've got to be here for the full session or leave, because there will also be a press conference in this particular session. So if your teacher in charge could come and speak with me outside the hall after that. Good morning. Why don't you sit down? Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Councilage Darbar Hall. Our session this morning is Voices from Under. And this is brought to you by the Dainik Bhaskar Bhasha series. We have Santhali stories by Damayanti Beshra, Untouchable God by Kancha, Ilaiah, and we have Namita Ilaiah, and we have Namita Gokhale introducing them. Thank you.
Dear friends, can you hear me? It's an honor and a pleasure to be sitting in the Darbar Hall, because this is where this festival began. I still remember 8 years ago, 6 years ago, when this beautiful room has hosted early sessions. And now, so many years later, thanks to Jaipur and of lovers of literature from around the world, this has become such a tremendous festival. So on this last day of the Jaipur Literature Festival, a very warm welcome to a very important session of today. Today we have two literary readings. It's called Voices from Under. And one of them is a very famous person, one of them is not yet a famous person, but for us, famous, not famous, well-known, everything, every voice has importance in the Jaipur Festival. And it's my great honor to have Damayanti Beshra here, along with Kancha Ilaiah. Kancha Ilaiah has been here before, 2 years ago, for a wonderful set of sessions, and he has already had some spectacularly popular sessions this edition. But this is the first time we are welcoming a Santhali writer. So a very big clap to Damayanti Beshra. A little bit about the Santhal language and the writing that comes from there. The Santhals are one of the oldest of the South Asian tribes. Santhali is spoken in India, Bangladesh, Bhutan, and Nepal. The present Santhali script, Old Chiki, was formulated in 1925. Damayanti Beshra has taken this legacy forward with her writing, and she will discuss from and read from some of her work, some of her children's stories. She has written several books in Odia and Santhali and been awarded the Janjati Pratibha Samman 2012 and the Sambardhana for contribution to tribal literature and art in 2012. As I said, Santhali is among the 22 scheduled Indian languages. It's the only Austro-Asiatic language which is in the 8th schedule of the Indian Constitution. And it's, you know, the way our great and glorious country is, it is difficult to imagine in Jaipur that it is spoken, spread over Assam, Bihar, Jharkhand, Orissa, Tripura, and West Bengal. And as I said, Nepal, Bhutan, and Bangladesh. It's increasingly visible as a mainstream literary language. Prominent Santhali poets include Doman Sahu, Sharda Prasad, Kisku, Ramdhan Murmu. The well-known novelists in the Santhali fiction include Chandramohan Hansda and Badal Hembram. And in short fiction, there is Sharat Prasad Kisku, Durbin Soren, and Digambar Hansda. And now a lot of Santhali writers, very interestingly, are writing in English, and we are expecting some Santhali novels in English this year. Damayanti will read from 2 children's stories, which have the charm, simplicity, and sophistication of folklore and folk tales, and convey much more than appears on the surface. तो मुझे दमयंती जी हिंदी में बोलेंगी और सांथाली में भी पढ़ेंगी और उन जो एक सहज खूबसूरती है उनकी भाषा में उसको समझाएंगी. दमयंती जी.
सबको मेरा जोहार, नमस्कार. मैं पहले एक कहानी पढ़ती हूँ सांताली में, उसके बाद उसका हिंदी ट्रांसलेशन पढ़ूंगी. कहानी का नाम है कोकलो पुसी. मिट्टंग गुडू बदहुड़ू अतिंग लगित हपन कोय ओडोकलेट कोआ. रस्का गे दोन एनेज बड़ाय जम बड़ाय जेखा ओकारे चोय ताहे कान मिट्टंग पुसी एसेट आकाद कोआय. जहाँ से नीर पुचू जो होरगे बाको नाम दाड़े आकादा. गुडू एंगाय नेल केदा आज ए दड़ पुचू जो कान खान हपन को गुजुक काना आर हपने बांचावेत को खान आज गोजते पड़ावाय काना. एनहो बांग दिशा हरा काते पुसी ए मेन आकादेया इया कथान इन मई आंजम आकादा पुसी कोड़ा दो अड़ी को रुसिकाहा आर चरक मंदड़िया काना को. आले माले एसे ठीकेना गुजुक मांग रे आमा तुमदा रुले आंजमा आर ले एनेज नोगा. पुसी कोड़ा अड़िए रस्कयनते मा तोबिं रुño आपे काना मेनते मेन आकादाय आर मोचाते रुरुई एहोब आकादा चाकप दिनिñ लाको चाकप दिनिñ लाको. पुसी कोड़ा तुमदा रु सावते गुडू एंगा रस्का गे हपन कोताय गुनुर गुनुर एनेज ए अयुराकाद कोआ आरे सेरेñ आका सुर रेगे ओड़ाग ताले सुर रेगे दुआर ताले. गुडू कोआ सेरेñ आंजम काते रस्काते आरहो बड़तिया काना पुसिया लटिज लिडुर. रस्का गे रुरुई एहोब आकादा. गुडू को राला राला सेरेñ काते को सेनोग काना आकुआ भुगा सुर ताक नेल काते घाड़गुड़ को दर बोलोआ काना. घड़ीक तायम गुडू को सेरेñ बांग आंजम काते कोयो अचुर लेदाय पुसी कोड़ा बड़ाय गोट आकाय आज कोकलो ऑटो काते. रेसन में पढ़ती हूँ. बिल्ली बना मूर्ख. एक मादा चूहा बच्चों को बिल के बाहर घुमा रही थी. बच्चे मजे में घूमने के साथ खेल कूद रहे थे. ऐसे समय में एक बिल्ली कहीं से आकर उन्हें घेर लिया. मादा चूहा ने देखा अगर वो भागती है तो बच्चों की जान जाएगी और बच्चों को बचाती है तो खुद की जान जाएगी. तो भी उसने एक उपाय सोचा और बिल्ली से कहा, भाई बिल्ली, हम सुने हैं कि तुम लोग रसिक मिजाज के होते हो, बजा बजाने में तुम लोग माहिर हो. हम लोगों का तो आज मरना निश्चित है, इसीलिए अगर कुछ देर तुम्हारे बाजे के ताल में हम लोग नाच सके तो इस जीवन को धन्य समझेंगे. युवा बिल्ली यह बात सुनकर खूब उछला. ताल देते हुए उसने बजाया, तकदीना दिन खाएंगे तकदीना दिन निगलेंगे. युवा बिल्ली के ताल के साथ मादा चूहा ने बच्चों के साथ नाचना शुरू किया और वे गाने लगे, पास में ही घर हमारा, पास में द्वार हमारा. बिल्ली को यह बात खूब जम गई. खुशी से वह झूमने लगा। मादा चूहा भी बच्चों के साथ जोर जोर से गाने लगा। बिल्ली को गाना और भी अच्छा लगा। खुशी से उनकी आंखें बंद हो गई थी। इस मौके में सभी चूहा एक एक करके बिल में घुस गए। कुछ देर के बाद जो बिल्ली को चूहों का गाना नहीं सुनाई दी, उसने आंख खोलकर देखा तो एक भी चूहा नहीं था। चूहों ने बिल्ली को मूर्ख बनाया। दूसरा कहानी है बकरा और बाघ की कहानी। एक बकरा जब जंगल में चर रहा था तो बारिश होने लगी। बकरा को पानी से खूब डर लगता है, इसीलिए भीगने से बचने के लिए एक गुफा में जा घुसा। उसी समय बकरा के गले में लकड़ी के बनी हुई एक घंटी बंधी हुई थी। गुफा में रहकर जब वह उगले घास पत्तों को चबा रहा था तब लकड़ी की घंटी से आवाज निकल रही थी, जमकटम जमकटम। वह गुफा दरअसल था एक बाघ का। लौटकर बकरा की आवाज सुना तो दहाड़ मारकर पूछा, मेरे घर के अंदर कौन है? बाघ के इस प्रश्न से बकरा डर गया। उसे मालूम न था कि वो एक बाघ का गुफा है। फिर भी साहस बटोरकर उन्होंने कहा, मेरा नाम लम लम दाढ़ी, पत्थर जैसा सीना मेरा, लौकी जैसी बाहें, सुई जैसा सींग, खाऊं खोट। यह सुनकर बाघ समझ गया कि यह हमसे ताकतवर है। डर के मारे वो वहाँ से भाग खड़ा हुआ। बाघ जाकर पहुंचा अपने एक मित्र के पास। सारी बातें उसने बताई। मेरे घर के अंदर वो बार बार बोल रहा है, खाऊं खोट। भाग्य अच्छा है मैं भाग आने में सफल रहा, नहीं तो वो मुझे जरूर खटखट करके चबा जाता। अरे बाघ के घर में किसी की इतनी हिम्मत, चलो देखते हैं, उसके मित्रों ने बोला। दोनों मिलकर उस गुफा में पहुंचे। विपत्ति आने पर एक दूसरे का साथ ना छोड़े, यह सोचकर दोनों ने अपने अपने पूंछ बांध रखे थे। दोनों गुफा के पास पहुंचकर दहाड़ के साथ बोले, कौन है हमारा घर के अंदर? बकरा ने बोला, लम लम दाढ़िया। बकरा जान गया था कि लकड़ी के घंटी से चबाने के साथ साथ अलग सा एक आवाज निकलती है, इसीलिए वो तेजी से खाना चबाने लगा। उसे सुनते ही दोनों बाघ डर के मारे खींचतानी में एक दूसरे को घायल करते हुए वहां से भाग गए। धैर्य और साहस से बकरा ने बाघ से खुद को बचाया। यही 2 स्टोरी थे संताली की।
तो दमयंती जी, मैं ये कहना चाहती हूँ कि जो बकरा बिल्ली की कथा कहानी है, इसमें ये सत्ता के बारे में है, ये मैनिपुलेशन, पावर, ये कहानियाँ जो आपकी हैं, पॉलिटिक्स ऑफ पावर, मेटाफर्स ऑफ मैनिपुलेशन, इस तरह की हैं। तो आप अपनी जो कथा कहानी लिखती हैं, कितनी अपने जो धरोहर है फोक स्टोरीज का उतना लेती हैं, कितने उसमें मॉडर्न चीज़ें आती हैं, और आप किसके लिए लिखती हैं? बच्चों के लिए, बड़ों के लिए, अपने लिए? क्या लेखन आपका है? कविता भी आप लिखती हैं, ज़रा अपने लेखन के बारे में हमें बताइए।
मैं कविता भी लिखती हूँ और बच्चों के लिए भी लिखती हूँ। ऐसे मैं क्रिटिक भी हूँ। लेकिन जब भी मैं लिखती हूँ, क्योंकि संताली भाषा अभी अभी आया है कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में और स्कूल कॉलेज में भी पढ़ाई होती है संताली में, इसीलिए ये ज़रूरी है पहले बच्चों को संताली जो संस्कृति है, जो रिलीजन है, उसके बारे में बताना मैं चाहती हूँ अपनी लिखन में। और ये जो कहानी है, बच्चों को आप लोग जो दूसरे बच्चों के बात आप बताएंगे तो वो नहीं सुनेंगे। इसीलिए जो संताली लोग पहले जहाँ जल, जमीन, जंगल जहाँ रहता था, उस जगह में वो रहते थे। और जो डोमेस्टिक एनिमल और उसके साथ वो जंगल की जो जानवर है, उसके कहानी जुड़ी हुई है, उसके साथ खेती के साथ जुड़ी हुई है। इसीलिए ज़्यादातर की बकरा, बाघ, सियार, चूहा, ये सब कैरेक्टर इस कहानी में मैंने रखा है। तो इसके साथ बच्चे भी सीखा पाएंगे, कुछ मोरल है इसमें, उसको जो साहस, बकरा कैसे बाघ को डराया, मतलब बच्चे छोटे हो तो क्या हुआ, उसका जो बुद्धि है उससे बढ़ के भी जीत सकते हैं। ये सब सीख इस स्टोरी से मिलता है।
तो हम चाहते हैं कि एक और साल हम यहाँ एक पूरा सेशन करें संथाली लिटरेचर पर, अगले साल नहीं तो उसके अगले साल। और हमें बड़ा अच्छा लगा कि आप यहाँ आई और आपने हम सबको अपनी भाषा का एक स्वाद दिया।
आप लोगों ने भी मुझे सुना है, इसलिए मैं भी संताली के तरफ से आप सभी को बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद देती हूँ।
अब इसके बाद अगली जो आवाज़ उठेगी ये ऊपर से नीचे से हर तरफ से गूंजती है। ये है कांचा इलाया जी की आवाज़। Kancha Ilaiah is an important and compelling voice within the Bahujan Dalit literary movement and the political movement. And we are very honored today because we are going to launch his new novel, Untouchable God, and talk of the origins and new directions of Dalit writing, and also perhaps about the situation of this literary movement within the political spaces, the understandings, misunderstandings, the reaching outs, with respect to some of those we have been following in the Jaipur festival in the last few days. So, if I could talk, I will speak about Kancha Ilaiah in English because he has written in English. तो मतलब ये सेशन जो हमारा है, हमेशा जयपुर में सेशन जो होते हैं दुभाषी होते हैं, कई बार त्रिभाषी होते हैं। आज हम अंग्रेजी में बोल रहे हैं, हिंदी में बोल रहे हैं, सांथाली में बोल रहे हैं। तो पर कांचा इलाया की किताब क्योंकि अंग्रेजी में है इसलिए उसका वर्णन मैं अंग्रेजी में करूँगी। तो Kancha Ilaiah is a professor and director, Center for the Study of Social Exclusion and Inclusive Policy in the Maulana Azad National Urdu University, Hyderabad. Amongst his writings is Why I Am Not a Hindu, and also God as a Political Philosopher, Buddha's Challenge to Brahmanism. And this indeed was the session, God as a Political Philosopher, was the title of one of the wonderful sessions we had here in the front lawn a few days ago. Today, Kancha is not here as a radical intellectual, but as a novelist. The Jaipur Literature Festival is honored to host the launch of his first work of fiction, Untouchable God. Untouchable God is a witty and ironical novel on the grim realities of India's caste hierarchies. He will read from the book and talk about what led him to this change of genre. In the acknowledgements, he remarks, I cut the wood and Rimi Chatterjee helped me to craft it into the wheels of a literary cart. तो वो बड़ा एक folk metaphor उन्होंने लिया है अपनी novel के लिए. It is for the readers to judge what kind of novel it is. I read the book and I enjoyed it hugely because it is a novel of ideas, very reasoned and yet with the human impulse to it, and with what some critic has called the connecting idiom of gender. I am sure this book will impact the literary world with its thoughtful articulation of the intellectual pretensions as well as the hurts and alienation provoked by the hypocrisies of the caste system within India. Now, first of all, I'm going to structure like this, that I'm going to launch the book. I request the publisher to come on the stage. We will unwrap the book. Then Kancha will speak a little about the book and a little about the Jaipur Festival and also about, he may...
About everything.
About everything. Please, a big hand for Kancha.
I'm glad the book is being launched when Damayanti Santhali is here. She is our mother, mother of all cultures.
I want to mention that the publisher here, Mandira, come forward. Samya has published many, many books, many of them which are all voices which don't often get. Over to the publisher to say a word or two on the book.
We've known Kancha Ilaiah for a very long time, and his first book sort of burst on the Indian literary and political scene in 1996. Samya, our publishing name, means equality, and we were happy that his was the first book we published. It was called Why I Am Not a Hindu, a Shudra critic of Hindutva, philosophy, culture, and political economy. And it really changed the way people started thinking. I think Kancha himself says that it has had an enormous impact on his life. He came into the public as a writer. He had columns in English newspapers, and there's been no looking back in his creativity and the fact that his voice gets heard and people want to hear it more.
Now over to him.
Well, at the outset, I really thank the team that is organizing the Jaipur Literary Conference, and particularly Namita Gokhale ji, who has really read the book in a very short time and took space from the whole organizational factors, and then she's launching the book, and she will be handing over the first copy to the mother of civilization of this Santhal, Lady Damayanti. Thank you.
So now, ये आपके लिए दमयंती जी पहली कॉफी आपके लिए. Now over to Kancha to talk about his book and the Jaipur Literature Festival, literary spaces, political spaces, human spaces.
Yeah, thank you, Namita ji. At the outset, before we go to the novel and what it contains, why I wrote it, why is it that a non-fiction writer like me resorted to writing novel, whether it is possible to write a novel and non-fiction kind of the thing that I wrote, having come from the first generation literary shepherd family that I come. But before that, there has been a controversy around certain events of this festival, and a lot of minds have been agitating about some of these controversies outside the Rajasthan, across the country. And one among them is my friend Ashish Nandi's comment about the SC/ST OBCs. I know Ashish Nandi for long. We have been on many debates. And I am also on the biggest social science research institute called ICSSR, Indian Social Science Research Center, where he and myself, we are on the governing body. So I just want to make a small statement about that so that the country can be clearly understand, and particularly my own SC/ST OBCs sisters and brothers understand the spirit of the conference as well as. Now this is a written statement, I want to be very brief about it. Ashish Nandi has made a bad statement with good intentions. However, as far as I know, he has not been against reservations. So that history I know, that he has been in support of the reservation. Therefore, the controversy should end here. Thank you.
However, if I may say, in the field of literature, controversies go on and on. That is the spirit of literature.
I mean, the controversy of debates, discussions are always welcome, and we should. And I should say that the Dalit Bahujan, Adivasi, literary consciousness, political consciousness, civil societal consciousness, particularly literary consciousness, has risen to the level where we can also tackle any kind of offense that comes against us today, which we were not capable of earlier. The fact that Damayanti ji is here from a Santhal tribe is an evidence. So we are capable of that. Anyway, I'm very glad once again that the novel has been launched here. And already in Hyderabad, in Andhra Pradesh, a leading Telugu paper carried small excerpts of the novel, and based on that, certain conservative Brahminic people put 2 applications in 2 police stations that this should be banned and should not be allowed to launch here. But they were trying to go to governor, trying to go to chief minister, but nothing happened. It is launched, thanks again. You know, what is this untouchable God? Who is this untouchable God? Can there be untouchable God at all? And why I wrote books with titles like God as Political Philosopher, that is about Buddha. Why I am not a Hindu and post-Hindu India, and why I am now writing a fictional book called Untouchable God. Who is this untouchable God? Throughout the novel, untouchable God appears in various forms and shapes. But the first untouchable God, who is the protagonist of the novel, is a chamar in Tamil Nadu called Paraya. His name is Paraya. And the first chapter of the novel is the soul, the Paraya's soul. Then there are various protagonists, women protagonists that come into play. One is a very powerful Nair girl who was pushed into Sambandham without marriage into the sexual life of a Nambudri, and then there is another girl in chapter 3 called Tilak's Code of Future. Her name is, this Nair girl's name is Sita Mahalakshmi. And another girl who was a street fruit vendor's daughter in Maharashtra, who both mother and father wanted to educate her in school. The novel is located in early 20s and 30s, but it ends in the 60s. So this girl's name is Saraswati. And this girl's life results in huge communal riots. And how that communal riots occur, you can see in the novel later. Then there is another chapter called Krishnamurti's Poetic Justice. This chapter, each chapter deals with one of the states in the country and the cultural realm of the country's society, layers of society at various levels. And this chapter deals with the poetic and literary casteism and superstitious values and the negative life that has been brought into our evolution itself through that literary structures. Then there is a chapter called Jyoti's, Basu's Brahman Socialism. This goes to Bengal, and there is another women protagonist there. Basu is not a protagonist. He appears a sort of, communist kind of a villain, but not really a villain. Her name is Gayatri. I was telling Gayatri Spivak yesterday, that Gayatri is not you. Then the novel finally ends with a black American called Isaiah Jackson coming to India during the times of Martin Luther King's movement. In order to make a comparative study of the race system, race movements, anti-racist race movements, and the caste movements that came here, and to understand the whole of Indian ethos, having read at that time that Martin Luther King used the concept of non-violence from Gandhi. He also suddenly comes across a book while all this was happening in US. He was a lecturer of sociology, first black lecturer of sociology. He suddenly finds Ambedkar's book in the library. It's called Untouchables, Who Are They, How They Have Come to Be Untouchables. And then he comes here. He goes through all these phases of his country and finally goes to UP and goes to Taj Mahal, then Banaras. There he encounters two interesting people. One is a Muslim interpreter whose grandfather was a Dhobi and got converted to Islam because at the Dhobi Ghat, a Sufi saint gives him Quran to be touched and biryani to be eaten along with him. So he becomes a Muslim. Then lots of things happen there. And then finally he meets an upper caste research scholar who was working on widows, particularly Brahmin widows. Her name is Mala Srivatsa. So finally after that he leaves back to America. Now, why is this pariah character? And why did I choose to write a novel? I've been writing theory and I've been writing essays, I've been writing, but all the literary genre of the OBCs is much less, because I come from a lower OBC shepherd family background. Is absolutely minimal in terms of OBC life. But there is Dalit literature coming from Maharashtra, coming from Andhra Pradesh in the regional languages, even from UP and other states it is coming. But most of this literature is telling the stories of pain, autobiographical narratives. But there is no literary critique of the Brahminic tradition, the Brahminic nationalist movement, how it really structured the nation in cultural realm. And then this self, this Dalit self, this OBC self, this tribal self, how it should look at itself, how it should reposition itself with assertion. That, made me think that, and suddenly one day I was sometime back I was reading a poem of Gandhi, which he used in his Gujarat ashram as a prayer. Even there it is written that, "O God, you help me. O God, you dwell in the hut of Pariah, and you come and help me in this moment," and so on and so forth. That's how the prayer goes. This Pariah word has become a dictionary word. Pariah is equivalent to untouchable. Now that's how West understands. Pandit is understood as scholar, thinker, West uses it, and Pariah is understood as untouchable. Now then, I was reading a lot about the West and particularly Bible, the names they use. In biblical tradition, Messiah is God. if Messiah is God, how is it that Pariah has become untouchable? So in the background, Pariah comes back as untouchable God. So I do not state it obviously. Now you all, you understand when you read the novel.
You read a small portion
Yeah.
for us, and then we'll have questions and answers.
See, what happens, Pariah one day went to his field work, the rice cut was bundled, he worked all through the day and was coming back home in the evening. The women were there all through the day. He is like woman among woman, man among man, short and bony in form. As he was coming to his home, it was slightly raining and there was water, pools here and there. He was jumping and suddenly he sees a dog mating a dog. And within minutes, the dog was trying to depart itself from that mating situation, but they could not immediately. There was a pain. Then he keeps thinking about, this dog mating a dog is both seems to be pleasure and pain. So, but again they got separated and they again came back. He stood for some time there perhaps. Then he moved on. There were series of lines of ants going. When one ant stopped, other ants went further and came back to see what happened to this ant. Then he keeps thinking, how come that God created these dogs like this, both pleasure and pain? I don't have pleasure in my life, only pain. Even my family life is not pleasure, all the time pain. My wife has no good things in life. And how come that this ants, if one ant has a problem, all ants come? And as human beings, I have no friends outside. I have no community relations outside. And how God created us like this? Then he begins to think whether God has a soul. Did he also create me a soul? Then as thinking on these lines, he keeps moving. I'll just read that. Pariah grunted. His mind was restless today. It was running like a rat in a cage, nibbling at all these ideas. Which was food and which were the bars? He thought of his children. They were born as gift of the same God, yet their future was bleak and fearful. He wondered if dogs worried about their offspring like this. Mother dogs always ran back to their puppies when they were hurt or hungry. Never the father dog though. He was not obliged to do anything. Pariah thought, unlike me, the father dog is lucky. He does not even know which puppies are his, much less care for them. Had I not known which children were mine, I would have wandered away and been free of this. Only of the untouchable population would have suffered then. The mothers stuck with these mouths to feed. The men would be happy with the momentary pain and eternal pleasure of not seeing the suffering children. Starving, naked, unlettered, doomed, Pariah moved on. He was walking slightly faster now. Then after this, somebody comes and attacks him. He falls down slowly, begins to become unconscious. He doesn't know who has come and attacked him. Then he was admitted into a white Christian hospital called Jesus Hospital. And after that, what happens? There was a Veda Shastri in his house. 5, 6 people meet. One was Nambudri from Kerala, an Apparao from Andhra Pradesh, Krishnamurti from Karnataka, Tilak from Maharashtra, Banerjee from Bengal. They all meet that See, unthinkable is happening in India. These untouchables are thinking about God. And they also begin to think about soul. And if they think about God and soul, they also think about equality. Should we allow this? And they are very happy that he was attacked, and they were hoping that he would die. And then what happens? See, I'll just read. They were having this conference, women were cooking. One of the women in the kitchen, they were all wet in wet clothes, because Brahmin women cook only in wet clothes, called muddy. So one young woman who was with a pregnancy was cutting the vegetables all the time, and then old woman was there. See, the young woman says that, what is this wet life of mine? I'm cutting all kinds of vegetables, cooking all kinds of things, but I can't even smell the food after I cook. Sudra woman, Dalit women are better than myself because they don't have to be wet in the kitchen. Then there was an old woman who says that, no, don't say like that. If you say like that, the sin will haunt you and your husband will die. What will happen to your child? Then she begins to shiver, and she says that we are meant to cook but not to eat. Whatever left out we should eat, and it moves on like that. Then what happens? All these people take a decision that they should go to different states and see that this untouchable God, who has started thinking about God, should not spread in the country. So Nambudri goes to his state, Tilak goes to his state, and these names I have used from my own convenience, for my own convenience. Then this Nambudri, everybody goes to their own state, they start working on their own agendas. Nambudri had a widow sister. Her name is Shivashakti. He wanted her to be a sati when his brother died, but she refuses to become sati. Then he was a big man, he was chairman of the Sri Krishna temple. Then he enters into a sambandham with a Nayar woman called Sita Mahalakshmi. He experiments, he thinks that he was an expert in Ramayana, Mahabharata, Vedas, and also, more than all, he is a great experiment in Kama Sutras. So he begins to experiment on that, with that knowledge, and then has 4 children. I'll just read a small part from that. Yeah. In his long interaction with Sita Mahalakshmi, he had realized that there was nothing as terrifying, unchallengeable as her rock-like, implacable silence. Sita Mahalakshmi was stronger than he was. The very fact that she never played his games made that clear. He had hardly ever paused to examine the feeling, but when he was before her, he felt like a child in front of a stepmother. Now, as he washed off the dust of the journey from Veda Shastri's house, he revolved the problem in his mind. The idea came to him that she would be less intimidating if he talked to her. He vigorously scrubbed himself inside. His mundu, he had never been naked, always bathed fully clothed, as was the Hindu high caste custom. In all the years they had spent together, Sita Mahalakshmi had never once seen his body. So he one day asks, Sita Mahalakshmi, can I see the children? She says, children, you have to see. You have never fed them. You have never done anything to them as you were never father. So why are you talking like this? He says, no, every dog shows one day its teeth. Then she suddenly said, now I have decided to become Sati. He was shocked. I am not your husband. How can you become Sati? Does it mean that I should die, he says. Whether you die or not, I will become Sati, she says. Then he leaves her. Then he goes to one day Sri Krishna temple and all kinds of things. What happens in between? One day, he was walking on the road, processions were coming in colored this thing, and people were shouting slogans. And I'll just read one slogan there.
And then because we've got only 15 minutes left.
God created all human beings equal. He created them in his own image. Jesus has arrived to save the sinners. He has arrived to make all men equal. This he could not tolerate, all men equal. So then he thinks that Jesus has sat him as a devil, and he becomes sick, and then he ultimately wanted to either die or become Christian, but become a Nambudri Christian only. So that day he calls his sister-in-law for the first time that look for a Nambudri who can convert me. And finally a Nambudri comes and converts. And then the story moves into Maharashtra, Tilak, the Saraswata Brahmins who migrated to various places, work on, sit and debate. In this debate, what happens, they think that even after the British go, the Muslims are going to occupy the country. Who will rule it? The Muslims will rule. So in order to stop that, they will have to start an organization. They stop. And meanwhile, this Saraswati, who wanted to go to school by their parents, was not allowed by a priest, and ultimately a Muslim woman teaches her Urdu along with Hussein, and they finally get married. And this organization kills Hussein, and after that huge riots take place.
So now
that side and this side. So, and then Krishnamurti, and then other this thing, and we will look at what Isaiah phase comes, Isaiah, after he comes, what he does.
So as you can see, this book is an explosive and challenging cross-section of the many realities of Indian class and Indian caste. Would you like to read a last concluding passage, and then we'll throw it open to the public?
Yeah. See, they start this Ganapati open festivals. First time allowing Sudras and others to come and touch Ganapati, and then Ganapati festival becomes strong. Then the Sudra youth get attracted to this god, and never they saw, so they also start putting pandals and everything. And they, sing a song for themselves. Worship, 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 body, 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 not brain, image, not imagination. So the imagination god and image god, they come like this in various forms. But lastly, I'll read one from this Isaiah, this thing, because there was a discussion on Kama Sutra yesterday, and how the whole thing has to be understood. Isaiah starts coming in a flight from America to come this country, and I'll just read this. The food was served, plastic airline food in plastic trays. He gulped it, keeping one eye on the film that was showing on the screen in front of the cabin. Then the whole thing happens. Then he lands in Amsterdam airport. He awoke when the plane touched down at Amsterdam airport. He disembarked, collected his luggage, and headed down the lengthy corridors of duty-free shops, restaurants, ticket counters, assistance booths towards the departure lounge to catch his flight to New Delhi. He wanted to buy a book on India. Perhaps the airport would be better stocked the library back home. He had a few hours before his flight was due to leave. The bookstore was full of brick thicks, thrillers with shiny raised letters on the front, a slim pack novelettes for teenage girls. Self-help book screamed at him to get a life. As he was about to walk out of the shop, he saw a huge book on the upper shelf, Kama Sutra, with the subtitle, Indian Art and Culture. It was easy for him to stretch up and long arm and bring it down. He had never seen such a book in his life. It was full of photos of paintings and sculptures, all of them erotic. He looked at the front page, the 64 Arts of Love. He riffled through the pages. On one side there was pictures, love making, on the other side an explanatory note. He read a little of the text. These were religious practices. He was astonished to the bottom of his heart. One page was saying Nagarika with an English translation, citizen. A good citizen should get up early in the morning, eat food for breakfast, go around the gardens and have sumptuous lunch in the afternoon, it said. He should rest thereafter and finally in the evening should go to a prostitute's house and have sex employing the 64 arts. Then he becomes shattered. What is this? Where I am coming? And then he says, my grandmother taught me all morals in the religion, and I am a Baptist Christian, and I am coming to a country where this is the book of the country. What will happen to me? And then he comes into India. Okay.
No, all I'm saying is that I do want to save some time for questions, and this is such a complicated book that everything looks shocking, is not shocking, everything looks challenging, because all the voices which you have entered into and entered into the thinking behind the voices is really to be appreciated. I want to now throw open because we have very little time and everybody in the audience I know wants questions. Who is handling the mic, please? We can begin 1 and 2 after that. And after that, we can maybe group 1 or 2 questions together. Can we be very brief with the questions?
Good afternoon. Namaste. Thank you very much. It's wonderful. Your book's title reminded me of something which we read a while back. In Afghanistan, there was an issue going on. It was called Children of a Lesser God. And I think your title really catches the imagination. And I think it's time that...
What is the question?
I would like to know from you that going forward, do you see as an author yourself that you'll be seen more as an author in your own right, and you will not be termed as an author coming from a certain section or class of society? Do you see in India where we see authors in their own right? And very briefly, आपके सवाल एक है जे आप जो लिखे हैं उसमें सांवताल डांस इसका कोई फीचर आपका संबंध थोड़ा आप सब लोग को बताएंगे भी तो अच्छा लगेगा. Thank you again.
पहले आप जवाब दीजिए. संथाली म्यूजिक और डांस का आपका क्या असर रहा है?
ऐसा है कि संथाली कल्चर में डांस और म्यूजिक भरा हुआ है. ऐसे कहावत है, डांस करने के लिए मना करोगे या गाना करने के लिए मना करोगे तो मैं रो पड़ूंगी. तो जहाँ भी स्टोरी आता है या जहाँ भी मीटिंग्स वगैरह होते हैं वहाँ डांस और सॉन्ग जरूर रहता है. बाद में डांस के बगैर संथाली कल्चर पूरा ही नहीं होता है. तो संथाली लोग डांस को, सिंगिंग को बहुत प्यार करते हैं. और इसके में जो मैंने स्टोरी लिखा उसमें भी एक ताल दिया है, तक दिना दिन जो है चकोप दिनिंग चकोप, और दिनिंग वो उसका ताल है, संथाली डांस का ताल है.
You know, when Namita said that this is a literature from below, but in fact this is a literature.
Voices from under.
Yes, voices of under, but these are also voices of transformation.
Absolutely.
Change. all other novels could be novels for novel's sake, for literature's sake. The productive communities of this country have all kinds of cultural life within them. That has not come into the text of novels, drama, story, though Mahatma Phule and Ambedkar wrote in some theoretical form and some drama form. Now, the autobiographies are coming, but we have never critiqued what the other. See, some of the critics are saying, there is one para in one of this thing, that when all these people were sitting together, they pray that, their own Sanskrit, and Veda Shastri says that look, bad days have come. We had golden days in our ancient period that only men used to mate men. Now men are mating women, there is pollution all around. Then somebody, Appa Rao is a very rational person. No, don't say this. If you say that, what is the evidence? Then he says, see, Nala was a person who was born from man's womb. Nala was a great cook. And now women are cooking, therefore tastes are now losing. So we should go back to that. Then how can man produce man, he says. Another person asks. He says, if men have breasts, they also have wombs. See,
it's about gender also.
Gender, human touch. This is there within our culture.
Question. There's another lady waiting. We have very short time for questions.
मैं दमयंती जी से पूछना चाह रही हूँ कि आपने संथाल ट्राइब के बारे में कहा, दो छोटे छोटे प्रश्न हैं। वो एक तो ये है कि आप ये ओरल ट्रेडिशन से आपने जो कैरेक्टर्स लेते हैं, एनिमल कैरेक्टर्स, तो दूसरा है कि इसके लिए आपको लिखने के लिए क्या कोई घर में या परिवार से या समाज में से या अपनी ट्राइब में से कोई संघर्ष करना पड़ा कि आपके लिए आसान था?
देखिए, संघर्ष करना तो पड़ता है। संघर्ष इस जरिए से होता है क्योंकि संथाली में जो मैं लिखती हूँ उसके लिए पब्लिशर भी नहीं है, बुक सेलर भी नहीं है, और जो लिखती हूँ वो अपने आप लिखती हूँ। इसलिए लिखती हूँ क्योंकि इस भाषा को आगे लेना चाहती हूँ। और पहले तो मैं इसलिए लिख रही हूँ क्योंकि स्कूल में बच्चे कैसे पढ़ेंगे या वो क्रिटिसिज्म कैसा होगा, पोइट्री कैसा होगा, मैं इसलिए लिखती हूँ क्योंकि मुझे देख के और भी जो स्त्रियां हैं वो भी लिख सके, इसलिए भी लिखती हूँ। और ज़रूरत पूरा करने के लिए स्कूल का या मेरा लैंग्वेज को आगे बढ़ाने के लिए मैं लिखती हूँ।
Next question. Waha, question.
Sir, this is a question about your first statement. You made that he made the statement with good intentions. What is his good intentions and the corruption, whether it is done by upper caste or lower caste, is it not bad?
No, actually what I understood, this is about Ashish Nandi's thing, no? What I understood was, perhaps he was of the view that the upper castes were corrupt all through their life. And the SC, ST, OBCs are entering into that corruption only now. And that is a realm that they have, upper castes have constructed, and into that these lower castes are entering. And only that way they can get into the level playing field, right? So this underlying factor that upper castes were also corrupt was not stated there. That is the problem. They were corrupt all through. For example, Bengal, when he talks about, the Bengal government did not implement reservation, therefore the SC, ST, OBC intellectuals were not there. And it is the Bengal government's corruption of not implementing the law that did not allow these people to come up. So in a way, deploying the word corruption itself on 3,000 years oppressed people is incorrect. They are not corrupt in that sense. But he was using it as some sort of a metaphor, I think, and that went RE,
Do you want to read your statement again, just to clarify?
Yeah.
I got it here. I think it's better, you see,
Yeah, I'll just read the statement again and read a small poem on God, untouchable God, and then we'll leave. Ashish Nandi has made a bad statement with good intentions. However, as far as I know, he has not been against reservations. You know, we have been fighting anti-reservationists all through. And he was not against reservations, whether at Mandal time and second Mandal time. Therefore, the controversy should end here. Yeah.
No, I think any more questions?
Any other question on law?
Same person asking too many
सर कांचा मेरा सवाल आपसे है हम वेलकम करते हैं कि आप दबे कुचले लोगों के मुद्दों से जुड़े हुए नॉवेल्स ला रहे हैं आज की जनरेशन उन नॉवेल्स को ज़्यादा पढ़ती जो रातों रात नॉवल निकले थे चेतन से लोग पॉपुलर हो रहे हैं ऐसे में ऐसे लोग तजुर्बा है और आपने लिखा हुआ बफेलो नेशनलिज्म और अभी जो आया है अनटचेबल गॉड तो आपके रीडर्स के लिए हिंदुस्तान की कंट्री में जहाँ पे कास्ट सिस्टम इतना खराब है आपके सामने क्या चैलेंजेस है
This is the last question.
या मेरे सामने ये चैलेंजेस है पहले SC ST OBC लोगों से पढ़ाना पर्टिकुलरली OBC लोगों से पढ़ाना अभी तक वो पढ़ने का कल्चर ही नहीं है मेरा किताब ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा अपर कास्ट लोग पढ़ रहे हैं मुझे जो क्रिटिसाइज कर रहे हैं वही लोग पढ़ रहे हैं They worship cow and they drink buffalo milk. And when I say buffalo nationalism, they read and get angry. And we need to engage with them. So ये हम change ये करना है SC ST OBCs को English medium schools आएंगे 25 years में पूरा जयपुर लिटरेचर फेस्टिवल में वही लोग रहेंगे डोंट वरी अबाउट इट
वही लोग नहीं सब लोग रहेंगे
वही लोग ज्यादा रहेंगे अब कम है अब ज्यादा रहेंगे
बिल्कुल यही we have to close next
see I'll just close this with a song that all the Tamil Dalits after this black Isaiah Berlin who is tall heavy lips and body when he went into their Dalit Wada they thought that God has come to their Wada and this God was looking like Shiva in their temple whom they never could see. So they sing a song, though they were attacked there, they sing a song with the drums and all that. That song, God has come to our house to stay with us, the untouchable God. Now fear no touchable God. Now fear no touchable God. Neither is thunder, nor is wrath, nor the hate and spite of its children, for the black God's hand will shelter us. The untouchable God will touch us now.
Very nice. So thank you. Give a big clap, please, for Damayanti and for Kancha. Thank you again.